A very warm good evening to everyone. If there is anyone live present right now, please write yes in the comment section if you can hear my voice. I'll just wait for a few minutes so that a few of the students can join. Okay, Trishna Vani. Okay, is my voice clear enough and audible for you to hear? Good evening, everyone. Okay, so I hope it is good to start. You can hear my voice well and clear enough, right? Okay, we are beginning with the third live session today of sociology optional for both UPSC as well as APSC for the mains paper. And as you know that we have already covered 2 demo lectures on sociology optional. So I request if any one of you are attending this lecture or in the future if you attend it, please go through the first 2 video lectures. The links will be provided in the description section after the end of this live broadcast is over. So you can go through the past 2 video lectures and then I request you to watch this lecture. Okay, if anyone of you have not gone through the first 2 video lectures, please do visit. The links will be provided in the description section, or else you can also find it from the playlist of our YouTube channel, that is CSAP. And under the playlist, you can find Sociology, and there you can find the first 2 lectures. I also request everyone to subscribe our YouTube channel so that you get all the notifications, and also do join our free WhatsApp group. The link has been provided in the description section. And if you join the WhatsApp groups, the free WhatsApp groups, you'll be getting all our updates. Along with that, you'll be getting daily current affairs PDF notes, along with answer writing practice sessions for general studies papers of all from GS1 to 5, along with essay paper. So let us come to the class now. And as you all know that we had discussed one question in the last class, right? If any one of you is not able to hear me, or if my voice goes off, please do write in the comment section that my voice or my voice is not there, or I am not audible enough. Okay, so I'm just waiting for a few seconds. All right, so I'm sharing the screen and I'll be discussing the question first. Okay, a few of you have already showed your answer to me, but as I have told you, there is a very good scope to improve and improvise your answers. So let us quickly see what we can write in the question that we had discussed in the last class. And in the first 2 classes, we have discussed about the first topic of sociology optional, and I hope you all have gone through the syllabus well. And as you know that in the first topic we had discussed about the sociology and its emergence, okay, the various different backgrounds we had discussed in the European society. We had also seen a lot of factors which led to the emergence of sociology as a distinct discipline of subject, or we can also talk about as a body of knowledge. All right. So today's topic will be the second topic of the first chapter, and you know that there are three topics of the first chapter, and today's topic will be your scope of the subject, okay, and comparison with other social sciences, okay. But we'll be discussing only the first part today, that is scope of the subject. What is the scope of sociology, okay, as a subject or as a body of knowledge? What are the various dimensions under which it can be studied, and what are the various dimensions sociology covers? Okay, we'll see from different time perspective, from different places perspective, to the present context. Okay, that is also very important. In sociology, the present context needs to be discussed in great details. So let me first discuss. Okay, I'll be sharing a screen, and I'll be also noting down a few points that will be useful for all of you to write the answer. Okay, so I hope you can see the screen. And as you know that we had discussed the question, how had the Enlightenment contributed to the emergence of sociology? Okay, what was the question? If I write it down, you know that we had discussed how had the Enlightenment contributed to the emergence of sociology, right? This was the question I had given you. And here, first of all, I would request everyone, okay, to first discuss what is enlightenment. All right, what is enlightenment? This is very important. Then we need to write, okay, first of all, let me tell you that this emergence of sociology will be using short form as EOS for this particular discussion. Okay, the second point that you can write is EOS, okay, and various conditions that led to the emergence of sociology. All right, the third part that you can discuss is their correlation. The correlation is very important in any sociological answer. Okay, what is the enlightenment and what are the various conditions and their correlation? The third part of the body of your answer can be the correlation. And then we will be talking about the criticism. Okay, this is like here the you can talk about the anti or you can talk about the conservative reactions. Okay, the conservative reactions. Now this is the structure of your answer. Your answer should be having a very good structure, and it should depict that the flow of the answer is very nicely drafted. Okay, and if you can write all the answers like this, you will definitely score very good marks in your answer. So these are the 5 points I'm highlighting for the answer of the question that I had discussed. If you can cover up this question, 5 points, okay, in the body of your answer. This is what is enlightenment. This can be the introduction. Okay, this can be the intro, and this 3 will be your body, and finally we'll see the conclusion. Okay, so as you can see here, that in the what is enlightenment, if I talk about, okay, what is enlightenment if I talk about, so here we had already discussed about the definition of the topic, that is enlightenment, right? So here you will definitely write about the belief. Okay, what was the belief? If I ask you what was the belief, or the growth of reasoning along with the logical aspects, right? Along with the logical aspects and the rational mindset, definitely. So first of all, you can talk about the belief system, right? The belief system that people could comprehend and control the universe. Okay, and control the universe. So this was this topic, okay, the controlling of universe, but this was definitely by the highlighting of what? Reasoning and empirical research. Now what is empirical research? We will definitely understand that, okay, in the next class, not today, because the next topic will be sociology as science, and there will be in great details we'll understand like how sociology and science is correlated, and there we will talk about the methodology of different types of methodology used by this subject. Okay, so you'll write about enlightenment, and you can even talk about the different belief, okay, of universal social laws. Excuse me. Universal social laws. You can talk about this in the definition of enlightenment. And also you can write one line that the enlightenment school of thought, okay, enlightenment school of thought believed, okay, that the society can be made better. Now this is how you write your introductions. All right, I'm just giving an example that how to write the answers, because the answers are very important to develop the way of writing answers. That is where you need to work. If you don't write and if you don't develop your answers, it will be really difficult for you to crack this or get good marks, because our target is 300 plus. So if you get 300 plus, you can definitely reach the score of 280 plus. Okay, okay, but if you get like somewhere near around 220 or okay 220, okay, it will be audible. If you get somewhere around 220 to 30, you may not clear mains. Okay, so target now, who will get 220 to 30, and who will get more than 280 plus. Okay, it all depends on your answer writing. If you do the answer writing well, you can definitely reach the score of 280 plus. But to get, our target should be to get 300 plus if you want to get a top rank. All right, so here definitely our main focus will be on answer writing so that our score is 300 plus. Also, I would like to clarify one thing here. One of the student, she had made it clear that in the last class when I was discussing about Plato and Aristotle, okay, while talking about various scholars, okay, and the field of and the time period of enlightenment, I was talking about the time period from 500 600 AD to 1200 300 AD, which was the time period of the medieval age or the middle age in the European history, and which was considered to be the dark age. Okay, and there I had mentioned the example of Plato, Aristotle, along with various other examples of various scholars. But I would like to clarify that Plato and Aristotle did not come from that particular time period. Okay, they comes from the ancient age of European society of Greece and Roman. So they did not belong to the Middle Age. They comes from the ancient age of European history. All right, but I gave that example in order to make the point clear that, in fact, they also started questioning the authority. All right, and that is why I gave that example in the last class. So please try to clarify it. I'm trying to clarify that point, but they did not belong from the dark age. Okay, so please don't get confused. Apart from that, we had discussed various other ideas, generation of ideas during the Enlightenment time period, also like after the middle age or the dark age in the European society. So as we are discussing about the uh, answer or the model answer of the last class, so you can see that in the introduction you can write about these points. What do you mean by enlightenment? All right, now after that there are also various conditions that were discussed in the last class. Okay, now under the various conditions, definitely you can write about so how the French Revolution, all right, how the French Revolution contributed or it acted as a factor in the emergence of sociology. Okay, that also we need to discuss. So you can definitely write about political revolution and French Revolution as an example. And here we discussed about how French Revolution highlighted the negative aspects, okay, of the modern society. Okay, and here you can quote the examples of Comte, okay, and also of Durkheim. Okay, because mentioning thinkers is the primary most important thing. If you don't mention thinkers, you will not get marks, as simple as that. But if you can mention thinkers along with examples, you will definitely get very good marks. Okay, so the first point we can discuss about I had made a certain changes in the settings of audio, but I think there is a problem even now. Anyways, I'm getting a notification when my microphone goes off, but this is happening in an automatic process. Okay, I'll try to figure it out. All right. So we can then talk about the industrial revolution. Okay, and as we know that industrial revolution was also a subject which talks about the emergence of sociology, because industrial revolution brought certain changes in the society. Okay, now what were those changes in the society we had discussed in the last class, and we can talk about Karl Marx and Sociological Sociological Economics. Okay, and how Karl Marx used industrial revolution, okay, as a subject in order to highlight the fact that this subject also contributed to the growth of socialism. Okay, so we can definitely talk about the rise of socialism. Just give me 1 second. I just need to check one settings. Okay, so I am audible right now. I can see. Okay, so I was talking about. Just give me 1 second. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, I think it should be working fine now. Let us just see. All right. So we were discussing about the answer of the last class, and I was just sharing a few points with all of you. So we discussed about the various conditions, how it led to the emergence of sociology. Now we talked about the political revolution along with the industrial revolution. Okay. Now let us talk about the other factors which contributed to the emergence of sociology here. Okay, so we know about the rise of socialism is also a factor for the emergence of sociology. Now, how the rise of rise of socialism can be a factor for the emergence of sociology? If we talk about, for example, when the industrial revolution was actually growing, we know that there were various problems coming up in the society in the form of like very small problems, maybe like problems of traffic, problem of congestion, problem of urban flood, problem of slums, problem of poverty and inequality, and so on. Now here, and in fact the problem of inequality was very high because of growth of capitalism, and there were like scholars and intellectuals like Karl Marx who were trying to promote socialism in place of capitalism, and they were thinking, or they were of the view that if we can promote socialism, okay, the society will no longer have to face the problems of capitalism. Okay, because under socialism, we'll understand what is socialism, what is capitalism, what is communism in later classes when we'll be discussing Karl Marx in details. But as of now, just to give you a slight hint, socialism talks about opposite to what is capitalism. Okay, if we just take a scale, if we draw capitalism on the one side of it, and communism will be on the completely opposite side of that scale. Okay, because capitalism completely believes in profit maximization, it believes in private properties. Okay, the mode of production is changed to factory and industries, okay, where the relation between the owners and the workers is based on contractual basis. But if we see the opposite of what is capitalism is, and that is communism, okay, and under communism we can talk about that the resources are not held by private parties, okay, or private players. The resources are held by the community as a whole. They are not focusing on profit maximization, they're focusing on equal redistribution of the resources. Okay, and if the same properties are controlled by the state, okay, then the socialism comes into the factor. Okay, when the state controls the resources and it looks after the equal redistribution of resources, then we talk about that is socialism. Now under communism, like there is a concept of equality of outcome. Okay, but under capitalism there is a concept of equality of, you can talk about opportunities. Okay, now what is the difference between equality of opportunity, which is there under capitalism, and what is equality of outcome? Okay, so that is what, for example, if we see our present and current society, where we talk about that even now we live in a capitalistic society. Now there is equality of opportunity for everyone to do business, okay, for everyone to run an industry. And for example, in order to do a business or in order to do agriculture, the government is giving equal opportunities to everyone. For example, they are giving input subsidies. Okay, now that input subsidy, if it is available for everyone, so everyone is getting the same opportunity. But now it is up to you how you use those input subsidies provided by the government in order to run your business and make it successful. Okay, now it will solely depend on individuals, like or on the amount of work and effort put forward by the individuals on the outcome of the business. Okay, so that we can talk about. Or for example, if we take an example like the competitive exams, okay, for example, you can talk about APSC or UPSC itself. Okay, what is the equality of opportunity that the government or the state is giving to everyone? It is that Article 21A, right to education. Everyone is getting education, right? Now the thing is that if someone is not getting the education even now after Article 21A has been made a fundamental right, it is because of lack of resources and also because of the lacunas in the system. But the government is trying to give education to all, and it says that if anyone is a graduate of 21 years, everyone can give the exam, everyone is eligible to give the exam. So there is equality in terms of opportunity for all. Okay, but there is no equality of outcome. Why? Because everyone will not get the job. Okay, very few people will get the job. So there is no equality of outcome. But what happens in a communist society? For example, if there is 100 rupees that with the government, and if the government wants to distribute that 100 rupees, and if there are 10 people, all the 10 members of the society will get 10 rupees each. Okay, but in a capitalistic society, that 100 rupees can be converted into many other forms. For example, someone might get 5, someone someone may get 50, or someone may not get anything based on the amount of their work in terms of the return. Okay, so in a communistic society, if 10 members are working, someone is earning 20 bucks, someone is earning 50 bucks, someone is earning 5 bucks only, it will be taken by the by the state, and it will be equally redistributed, and everyone will get the equal amount of money at the end. So there is equality of outcome. That means equal redistribution of resources will take place, and there is no concept of private property in the communistic state. Okay, so Karl Marx was of the opinion that, okay, Karl Marx was of the opinion, okay, there is a comment, in exams the concept of meritocracy also works, right? Yes, definitely. So that is what I am trying to say, okay, Gargi, like the meritocracy is definitely there, and that is why how you as an individual take it forward. Okay, for example, if the government gives you 10 members in the society 10 rupees each, okay, now it depends on the individual to convert the 10 rupees into 100 or 1000 or even into crores, okay, if you work hard and take your business forward. So there is no equality of outcome in a capitalistic society. Okay, but in a communistic society, even if you earn 1 lakh, even if you earn 10,000 out of that 10 rupees that the government gave you, government will take back the extra amount, okay, and will redistribute it equally to the other members of the people who did not earn anything. Okay, so this meritocracy system is based on equality of opportunity, not on the equality of outcome. Okay, so this is a very ideal concept. Now in no society will not find this concepts in real life in the ideal aspect. Okay, definitely there is a mix of capitalism and socialism in almost every society nowadays. Even if we talk about our state, okay, we believe in industrialization, we believe in maximization of profit, there is capitalism, but at the same time the directive principles of state policy of a constitution which talks about welfare of all under article 38, 39, it talks about equal redistribution of resources to all, and that is why we have schemes like MG Narega, we have schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, we have many other schemes which provides many things for free to the people. Okay, but the money is coming from whom? It is coming from the taxpayers' money. Okay, someone who is earning a lot, they pay the tax. Only 4% of our country, of the population, they pay tax, and out of that money, obviously it is being used to redistribute it equally. Okay, if not equally, obviously it is redistributed to the people who needs the welfare, who needs at least a minimum support from the government. Okay, so definitely we have a mixture of both, and that is what, like, we can talk about what Karl Marx was saying at that time period. He talked about that whatever the capitalism was rising, okay, because of that capitalism, the society was getting splitted into two forms. Okay, the maximum resources were being controlled by a minimum population and who were the ownership class, but very minimum resources were in the hands of the maximum population who were the non-ownership class. And in fact, Karl Marx gave two terms like proletariat and the bourgeoisie class, okay, or the haves and the have-nots. And Karl Marx says that this type of form has been seen in almost all the different forms of society. Okay, right from the master slave society to your feudalism to capitalism, in all forms of society there is this split or this class conflict is always there, except in one society which it talks about, the primitive communism, okay, which was there in the ancient time period, where the society was run by the community and every resources were owned by the society or the community. Okay, let us not just go into that in details because we'll be talking about these aspects in the Karl Marx chapter. But what Karl Marx talked about during the Industrial Revolution, he talked about the negative aspects, okay, that the conflict between the owners and the non-ownership, and this was also portrayed as a problem in the society because of rise of inequality and exploitation. Because of Industrial Revolution, there were different forms of labor movements coming up, okay, because a lot of laborers were getting exploited. The wages were not very like up to the mark as per the amount of work that they were contributing towards the organization or the company. Okay, so Karl Marx was saying that the inherent contradictions within the capitalism, okay, will lead the people to do a revolution, and he went towards that direction. Rather than developing sociology, Karl Marx went towards how to bring a solution to the contradictions, inherent contradictions within the form of capitalism. Okay, and that is why Karl Marx is also pulled by the subject of economy. Karl Marx is also pulled by the subject of political science. Karl Marx is also pulled by the subject of sociology, and so on. And that is why we cannot say that Karl Marx was a sociologist, but every subject will say that he was a sociology will say that Karl Marx was a sociologist. Pol science will in fact say that Karl Marx was a political scientist. Economics will say Karl Marx was an economist. Why? Because he was giving prime importance to the mode of production. Okay, and that is why Karl Marx theories also talk like that. He puts more focus on economic determinism. Okay, because everything he relates to economy. Okay, anyways, we'll discuss these things in Karl Marx chapter. But as of now, what Karl Marx theory of socialism or communism gave rise to as a factor to as a contribution to the emergence of sociology was because he tried to discuss the problems within the industrial revolution, within the society or the modern society, which came out because of industrial revolution, and he was trying to focus upon the solution. Okay, solution, how to remove this inequality or the class conflict. Okay, so that can be your third point. Now apart from that, if we can write about the, even in George Ridger, these points have been given. Okay, we can talk about feminism. Okay, how feminism or how the issues of gender conflict or how the issues of rise of patriarchy in the society was actually demeaning the status of women in the society. Okay, so all these things, even many of the feminist scholars came out. Okay, and they started to write from a feminist perspective, and this also contributed to the rise of sociology as a distinct discipline. It is a different thing that many of the founding fathers of sociology did not consider it that it to be important, but still we can say that in fact the feminist scholars, when they started writing from the gender from a specific gender perspective, it even contributed to the rise of sociology as a distinct discipline subject. And then we can talk about, after feminism, we can talk about urbanization. Okay, in fact urbanization also helped to the rise of sociology as a distinct subject. Why? Because of modern society, industrial revolution, there was a huge amount of urbanization taking place in the society, and because of urbanization, again there were a lot of problems coming up, and so and that became a subject, okay, of study for the sociologist, how now they can improve the urbanization and remove the problems from the society. After that, we can talk about religion. Okay, we can talk about religion because a lot of, in fact, in urbanization, we'll talk about Chicago school. Okay, Chicago school was completely based on urbanization, and Chicago school was coming from the American school of sociology. So we'll discuss these things in great details later on. Okay, so that also contributed to the growth of sociology. Then we can talk about religion. Now under religion we have so many examples. Okay, because when we will be covering our chapter number 4, which covers the thinkers. Okay, now under this in religion we'll talk about Emile Durkheim. Okay, because Emile Durkheim talks about religion. We'll talk about Max Weber in great details, because Max Weber talks about Protestant ethics and rise of capitalism, which is a very, very important development. Okay, which is a very, very important development in a contribution to sociology. Okay, so Max Weber's theory. Now you can quote these examples in your answers. Okay, Max Weber's, for example, your Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism. Now this is a very important subject or important part of development of sociology. We can even talk about this. Okay, we'll start in great detail. So we'll be talking about Max Weber. Then we can even talk about Karl Marx. In fact, he also talked about religion. Okay, and we can talk about various other scholars also, but at least quoting of 2-3 thinkers are very, very important in your answer. Okay, then we can talk about the growth of science. All right, so growth of science also helped or contributed a lot towards the growth of sociology as a distinct discipline subject. Okay, now under growth of science we'll be talking about like we can talk in fact about August Comte. Okay, we can talk about August Comte, we can talk about Emile Durkheim. Okay, in fact we can talk about some of the theories also, or the methodologies that were being used, like positivism. Okay, or in fact about empirical observation. We can talk about empirical observation. We can talk about different methods of quantitative methodologies that were being used, which we'll study in chapter 3 in great details. Okay, so even we can quote these examples and your answer will become very rich in content. And then last you can talk about like the rise of intellectual, okay, forces. Intellectual forces. Now under this intellectual forces we can again talk about the Enlightenment scholars, okay, and the conservative scholars. Now this is what can be the structure of your answer. Okay, so under this rise of intellectual forces, you definitely, and this part actually, okay, can be divided under like this Enlightenment part you can talk about in this correlation part. All right, and this conservative scholars you can put it in your criticism part. Okay, so the body of your answer is done. Okay, this is how you write your answer. So the body of your answer is done. All right, so now what do you write in the Enlightenment scholars? Again, we had discussed in great details. Okay, here for example under the Enlightenment scholars we can talk about the various scholars who brought up with a lot of ideas, like we can talk about Montesquieu here. Okay, we can talk about Rousseau here, we can talk about Voltaire here. Okay, they talked about various new ideas of like separation of power theory under Montesquieu. Okay, then we can talk about rules talking about like equality and liberty. Okay, so similarly we can talk about these scholars in under the Enlightenment scholars and how they gave rise to the field of new distinct discipline. Okay, that is sociology. Along with that we can even mention the founding fathers of sociology like Auguste Comte. We can write about Emile Durkheim because they were all Enlightenment scholars. Okay, they were having a positive aspect, positive point of view from the Enlightenment field, and they were even using like the science. Okay, they were using science as a methodology. Okay, they were using science as a methodology for the study of sociology. Okay, and this gave to the rise of, because you can talk about like when you use science as a methodology. Okay, so there you definitely can say that there is rise of, you know, reasoning. Okay, rise of reasoning in the society. Okay, because of rise of sociology, and this will definitely contribute because sociology when it will get developed, okay, it will be using both quantitative as well as qualitative methodologies to study, okay, or to do the research works, which is a part of our chapter number 3. So here we can even talk about like science as a methodology which was being used by the founding fathers like Auguste Comte and Emile Durkheim, and that is where we discuss this things. Apart from that, but I will try to show you one point here. Okay, if I show you like the, if I try to show you the from this book. Okay, here this, the growth of science is also a factor. This is page number 8. Okay, I had asked you to read it. You can see here that the intellectual forces and the rise of sociological theory, how it contributed to it. Okay, it is very beautifully written here, and you can find out one line here. Okay, one statement here where it is being mentioned that the Enlightenment philosophy was only contributing as an indirect link, okay, or indirect contribution towards the growth of sociology as a distinct subject. All right, so somewhere there this line is mentioned. Actually, I'm not able to find it as of now, but if you have read it, you'll definitely find, you can use this thinker's name. Okay, for example, this is Rousseau. Okay, we talked about Rousseau, right? We talked about Rousseau, then we talked about Montesquieu. Montesquieu name should be also here. So you pick out pick out this. In fact, you can talk about Descartes, Hobbes, Locke. Okay, they are all contributing to the new ideas of that time period. All right, and the later thinkers associated with Enlightenment did not reject the ideas and system. Okay, but they talked about that it makes more rational sense. Okay, and here, after, like, in fact, this Newtonian physics, because there was that time the growth of science was very high, all right, and at this point we can see the emergence of application of scientific method to social issues, all right. So this also actually played a major role in contributing to sociology in developing its methodology, all right. So that is what you pick up these points from this source. And not only did Enlightenment thinkers want their ideas to be, at least in part, derived from the real world, they also wanted them to be useful to social world. So this is the actual contribution, okay, how growth of science or this intellectualism contributed to the development of sociology, all right, because they wanted these scientific methods to be useful to the social world in solving the problems or in bringing back the social order in the society, all right. So that is what we have been discussing about this, okay. So they were using reason and research to discover the social laws. So now if there is a problem of inequality, so they will try to use this methodology of science and they will try to discover a social law or make a social law which will solve the problem of inequality or any other social problems, okay. So with an emphasis, so there was emphasis on reasoning, okay, and the Enlightenment philosophers were inclined to reject beliefs in traditional authority, which was done by the church, all right. So these Enlightenment philosophers were actually inclined to reject beliefs in the traditional, that is what they were doing, right. So this is what we have understood in the last class also, okay. So the mission of the practical, if you talk about the mission, what was the mission of this philosophers, was to overcome this irrational system or the problems of the society or the disorder in the society, okay. So the theorists who were mostly directly and positively influenced out of this Enlightenment thinking, we can talk about Karl Marx. You can see here, we can definitely write his name, or Alexis de Tocqueville, but you can at least mention about Karl Marx if you want, okay. So now to this Enlightenment theory, there will be, we know that there will be a strong reaction, there will be a strong counter to this Enlightenment theory, and where we can talk about the conservative scholars, okay. We can definitely talk about the conservative scholars, and this is the conservative reaction to the Enlightenment, okay. So here you can see here that even in this book it is written that we might think that France's classical sociological theory like Marx was directly and positively influenced by Enlightenment. French sociology became rational, okay, so they got influence from the Enlightenment. So this was a direct contribution, this is a correlation between Enlightenment, okay. And because I had already mentioned it, see, this is how you develop your answers. I had mentioned what is Enlightenment, and then we had talked about various conditions under which the emergence of sociology happened, right. After that I have talked about that how to correlate both the points, and this is the correlation, okay, that how this Enlightenment influenced different scholars, like the French scholars, they became rational, empirical, scientific, okay. So this is what the correlation is all about, we can talk, okay. So the ideology of the but after this Enlightenment, there will be counter Enlightenment or the conservative reaction, all right, and they will highlight more what the traditional aspects, okay. They will say that the traditional society was more or it was better because of the disorder created by the modern society, okay. So the most extreme form of opposition of Enlightenment was, again, I had discussed these two thinkers' name in the last class, Louis de Bonald and Joseph de Maistre. You have to highlight these two scholars' name while writing the counter to Enlightenment, okay, or the conservative school of thought. All right. Now they will talk about that God is the supreme, okay, because Louis de Bonald says you should be writing this, you should quote this type of lines in your answer, that God was the source of society, all right. Under Louis de Bonald you can say, and that is why this reasoning which is coming out of the Enlightenment scholars, he will not give the primary importance to the reasoning, because if God is a source of society, okay, reasoning and this developments will come secondary. So first primary importance or the first priority should be given to whom? To the God, okay, or the traditional aspect or the search, okay. That is what, and that is why they say that it is better to go back to the traditional, okay. And that is why this Enlightenment philosophers, and this is seen as inferior to traditional religious belief. This was what talked about by your conservative scholars like Bonald and Master, okay. So you can read this is very easy. Now it becomes very easy, and overall the entire gist of the conservative reaction, as I had discussed in the last class, also, okay, was highlighted by Jacqueline, okay, outlined the 10 major propositions that he sees as emerging from a conservative reaction, okay, and we discussed these 10 points in great details. You can talk about now. Obviously, your answer cannot have all the 10 points, but you can at least write 3 to 4 points, club together all the 10 points. You can write in 3 to 4 points, okay. Now this is what you write in the form of criticism, okay, and like this is now one part of your answer, and finally you can write the conclusion in your answer, okay, that for example we can talk about that while enlightenment, I'm just writing E as enlightenment, okay, provided I had told you provided as means, okay, but reaction to enlightenment or the conservative intellectual school of thought, okay, it provided what? It provided the goals of sociology. Why? Because what was the goal of sociology? To study the social disorder, okay, and the major focus of the founding fathers of sociology was to bring solutions, okay, in order to solve the social disorders, okay, and you can definitely then quote a few examples along with thinker's name, okay, and we can write one line at last that thus enlightenment not only sociological thought. All right, so you can see here that this can be the structure of your answer. Now I'll give you the model answers of all the questions that we'll take up in the class, okay. We will not discuss all the answers, but this is just, since it is a demo class, okay, since it is a demo class, and that is why I am showing it to you that this will be the structure of your answer, and if you can write this answer in your question in your exam, definitely will get very good marks. There is no doubt about it. All right, so you can definitely develop your answers in this structure, okay, where you, when you write an introduction, okay, you write an introduction, then you write a body, and then you write a conclusion. Now let me tell you one point here, that in the body it is very important to write both the positive as well as a criticism to it, okay, because that is what the sociology is all about. Even if a question is coming on urbanization, there also you'll find thinkers who talks positively about urbanization and a few thinkers who talks about negatively about urbanization. So sociology, since it is not the truth, okay, you need to highlight both the aspects of positive as well as negative, okay. So that is what actually becomes a matured answer, okay. For example, let me give you another example. For example, if there is a question on social fact by Emile Durkheim, okay, we'll study these things in chapter number 4. Now in social fact, whatever Emile Durkheim used it as a tool to study the society, okay, but there were also certain demerits why we cannot use social fact as a tool to study sociology, okay, and that is being highlighted by Max Weber. All right, he talks about a different tool, that is social action in place of social tool, so in place of social fact. So that is where you also need to, if the question is on to write about social fact, you should also write 1 or 2 line at last, okay, just before the conclusion, highlighting the demerits or the disadvantages of social fact and how Max Weber, okay, tried to modify it, or how Max Weber was quoting about a different form, okay, and what were the demerits in the in using social fact as a tool to study society used by Emile Durkheim. So I hope you have understood that your answer will become mature if you highlight both the positive as well as the criticism of whatever is being asked, even if it is not asked in the question. This is very important. If you want to get 300 plus in sociology, you definitely need to highlight the criticism of your of the question or the topic what is being asked, in order to make it a very matured answer. All right, so that is what I had to tell you, and this is the answer. So I hope now those who have written the answer or those who are going to write, you can like compare your answer with this broad body, or with this broad structure of your answer. Okay, this should be a model answer, and if you can write like this, and if in fact we have also quoted a lot of scholars here, we have quoted their ideas here. In fact, we can even talk about, see, now it is up to you how like diversify you can make your answer. All right, for example, when we are talking about, for example, say we are talking about Emile Durkheim here, or we are talking about, say, suppose rise of intellectual forces. If we talk about Emile Durkheim, you can even write about division of labor there. Okay, how division of labor, okay, it was also contributed as, towards rise of sociology. All right, because Emile Durkheim was also studying division of labor, and that was a new term because of industrial revolution. Okay, because earlier when there was no industrialization, there was no division of labor. Okay, there was only household mode of production, but when you went to the factories and industries, then your work got more specialized and the labor got divided. Okay, that also became a subject to study, and it was done by Emile Durkheim. Okay, and that is also a factor which you can use it for the rise of sociology as a distinct subject. Okay, because so you can use a lot many other theories by so many thinkers, and that is how you make your answer again different from others. All right, so there is always a possibility to make your answer dynamic and make your answer multidimensional from various angles. So this is how you develop your answer. Okay, now let us quickly go into the next topic of today's class. All right, so that is, we have discussed about this, and now we start with the development of French sociology, because in the rise of intellectualism and rise of different forms of sociology, under this only we will be talking about the second topic of the first chapter, and that talks about, as you can see your syllabus, what is the second topic. If you see your syllabus, it is about the scope of the subject and comparison with other social sciences. Okay, so this is your second topic of the syllabus. Okay, now we are dividing this into two parts. All right, we are dividing this into two parts. So first of all, we will discuss the scope of the subject in today's class, and in tomorrow's class we'll discuss about the comparison with other social sciences. But now these are very big topics. Okay, we might even need more class. Okay, so initial classes we have to go slow. Our classes will be a bit slow till chapter number 4. All right, because your entire sociology syllabus is only till chapter number 4. After that, it is just the application part. So once we can cover it up till chapter 4 in a slow process, after that the speed of the class will become very fast. Why? Because then I'll be talking about functionalism, I'll be talking about conflict perspective. Suppose we take up a social stratification chapter, we talk about the functional perspective. You'll automatically understand that if I tell you that so and so this thinker is coming from functional perspective, you'll automatically understand that what that thinker is going to talk about from the functionalism perspective in the theory of social stratification, or in the theory of politics and society. Okay, so till chapter 4 we have to go slow, but after we are done with chapter 4, almost you can talk about, say, your 80% syllabus is done. Okay, but again we'll go chapter wise from 5 onwards, and there the speed will become fast. Okay, so our target is to complete paper 1 within 2 months. Okay, from now on, that is by August 15 I'm considering. Okay, by August 15 I'm considering that paper 1 should be over. All right, paper 1 should be over, and then another 1.5 months will be required for paper 2. Okay, and in the meantime our answer writing development will be also going on. So let us now come to the second topic of the subject, or the scope of the subject, and comparison with other social sciences. Now here, for example, what is this topic all about? What is this scope of subject, or it is dealing with? Okay, so as you know that a subject, when we are talking about its scope, okay, so what are the various dimensions it can talk about, it can study? Okay, or in different time periods how the scope has evolved. All right, For example, if I ask you to study sociology 100 years back, and if I ask you to sociology 100 years after, like or maybe after 100 years after from now. So similarly, if I forget about sociology, if I take you to the development of mobile phone, okay, you study the evolution of mobile phone, or a study of or you tell me the applications of a mobile phone technology. So if I would have asked you 10 years back, okay, the application, the scope would have been so less, right? But what about now? The scope has been broadened up so much, like so many times more as compared to 10 years back. Mobile phone technology can be used in so many other things. It can be used in education. Maybe 10 years back we did not know that its scope can be even in the field of education, okay, or its scope is even now in the field of agriculture, because there are sensors in mobile phones and in so what I'm trying to say is that, all right, so what I'm trying to say is that when we are discussing about the scope of a particular subject, its scope may vary from time to time. Do you agree with me? Definitely yes, right? Its scope, when it, for example, the first time when August Comte talked about the term sociology, okay, sociology in 1838, all right. So in that time period, that means in the early part of 19th century, the scope of the subject, and in today's time the scope of the subject is having a huge difference. All right, so that is why when we study the scope of subject, we can study from like time to time, okay, how the scope of sociology has evolved. Second thing that we need to cover in the scope of this subject is from place to place. All right, as I have already told you that from time with time the scope of sociology will definitely vary. Also, at the same time, the scope of sociology will also vary from place to place. For example, in French society, what the scope of sociology is can be different from the scope of sociology in American society, or in Italian society, or in fact maybe in Indian society. All right, so that is what we need to study in this chapter. I hope you have understood my point. Okay, so the scope of sociology varies from time to time and also from place to place. Okay, and in last we also need to cover up that what is the present scope of sociology, or what the subject is studying in the contemporary time period. All right, so if we can cover up these three subtopics, our topic of scope of sociology is can be done. All right, so again, in the scope, when we talk about the scope of sociology, we can talk about that various influences are happening. Okay, various influences are happening. Now when we will go to the book, okay, when we will go back to this book, now when this topic talks about the development of French sociology, all right, now here why we are talking about the development of French sociology initially, because you can see that, as I have already told you, that the subject scope is varying from place to place, and that is why we will study the scholars from place to place. For example, initially we'll talk about the French sociology development, then we can talk about the, for example, German sociology developments. Okay, then we can talk about the American development of sociology, then we can talk about the Italian development of sociology, and so on. So when we do this, okay, so when we cover one scholar after another from a particular place, then we talk about what they were studying, or how they were studying, or what were their methodologies were. So when we do this, we understand the scope of their studies, and ultimately we understand the scope of the subject. Okay, so that is what we are going to study. Now let me again put a disclaimer to you before we start. Let me put a disclaimer to you that this class will be one of the very important class. Why? Because we are going to cover up so many scholars. Okay, almost entire syllabus can be covered through this class, through the scope, because you also understand that we can discuss all the thinkers. If we discuss all the thinkers, we'll understand the various subjects of their studies, and that will also highlight the different forms of the scope of this subject, right? And that is why we will be definitely covering a lot of thinkers in this subject, okay? Just the introduction of the thinkers. And when we do this, okay, we understand the scope of this subject. Now it is very important for you to keep some patience and also some confidence in this class. Why? Because you are going to be introduced to a lot of thinkers, okay? But when you do that, you might get afraid that there are so many thinkers and the subject is so technical, but it is not, okay? Because these things will be repeating in chapters, in almost all the chapters. And once you but at the same time, I cannot like give you a guarantee that you will feel comfortable in today's class itself. You have to wait for at least 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks till we reach chapter number 3 and chapter number 4. You'll be very much comfortable with the thinkers. All right. So there is one question from Rima, sir: how to cover our answer writing in maximum 250 words by highlighting all the important points? Answer: give a proper shape into it. The question. Meanwhile, I have already given you the points. Now it is up to you how you write the answer. You write the answer with these points, okay, within 250 words. It is very important to maintain the word limit, and then you can show it to me. All right. Now let us move ahead with the French sociology. Okay, now in French sociology, okay, we need to talk about Saint Simon and Comte. Okay, now when we are discussing about French sociology, because we can relate the start of sociology, okay, the start of the subject itself, with thinkers like Saint Simon and Comte, okay, because when the subject was started, okay, when the subject was started, for example, in 1838, when Auguste Comte gave the coined the sociological term or the sociology term, okay, from then onwards, these thinkers have been using a particular methodology. They have been influenced from science, all right, and that is where we can talk about like how they developed, okay, how they developed the view of positivism, okay, which positivism means what? It is a methodology to study a particular subject, okay. The positivism is coming from the influence of science, okay. You use like scientific methods, and that is what is positivism, okay. And in fact, positivism was also being used by these thinkers, okay. So if I just for example, if I just try to give you a summary, okay, of what these thinkers were talking about. For example, the French sociologist, okay, under the French sociology. This will be just the mind map of our today's class, okay. French sociology. If we talk about Saint, now you need to know these thinkers, okay, and Saint Simon and then Comte, okay, Comte, the founder of sociology, and we can also talk about Durkheim, okay. You need to remember at least these three thinkers name for sure, all right. And under this, what they talked about is about positivism, okay, then about empiricism, okay, then about society as supreme, okay, society as supreme, and I'll explain it to you, and also structuralism, okay, and functionalism. And these are the five things that we need to discuss when we are talking about the comparison with when we are talking about the scope of sociology, okay. Now just see these 5 points of positivism, empiricism, society as supreme, structuralism, and functionalism. Now this is the gist of the French sociology, okay. This is the gist of your French sociology. Even when you will read this source, okay, you can talk about like you can skip him, and after that you can start from Saint Simon and Comte, okay. Everything is written here in great details. Definitely you need to read this chapter after today's class. I'm giving you the entire summary of this part, okay. Now what this part is trying to discuss about is that you try to relate. Okay, now we are not going into the theory part in today's class. Okay, like what August Comte used to say, what Durkheim used to say, or what their studies were. For example, Comte will divide the society into three parts. Okay, now we are not going into those details in today's class. In fact, those details are discussed in the book in the first chapter itself. Okay, but if I go into the theories in the first in this class, okay, that will become a very long class. It might take 5 hours of time period. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here, that the scope of sociology is broadened up by using the use of science through the society or to study the society. Okay, and empirical observation, because this class is about the scope of the subject. And when we are talking about the French sociology, so Auguste Comte, Durkheim, or Saint Simon, okay, they are trying to talk about positivism. Why? Because positivism was a methodology. They got influence from natural science. Okay, they will use scientific methods, they will use empirical observation. All right, they will use empirical observation to study society. Okay, and why they are studying society? Because ultimate goal is to bring the solution to the social disorder. All right, so in order to bring a solution to all the problems, they're trying to develop a grand sociological solution or a grand sociological law. Okay, and in order to do that, they will need some methodologies to study society, and these are the methodologies. Type of methodology is positivism along with empirical observation. Okay, so this is also the scope of sociology. The sociology also can use positivist methodologies to study the society or to study the social agents or to study different social institutions like marriage as an institution, family as an institution, okay, polity as an institution, religion as an institution. So we can use positivism and empirical observation. What is empirical observation? What is empiricism? Something that you can observe. Now, can you observe inside my mind what I'm telling you? Can you observe inside my mind what I'm telling you? Can you observe inside my mind what I'm telling you? Okay, so empirical observation is something that you can observe inside your mind. Okay, but they cannot study the human mind. Okay, because in order to study the human mind, it is very very important to know the meanings and motives deep down inside the human brain. But it is not possible, it is not possible to observe inside the human mind. Okay, so okay, so now what I'm trying to say here, that the scope of sociology is broadened up by using the use of science through the thinkers like Emile Durkheim, through thinkers like Auguste Comte and Saint Simon. We are not going into details. We'll study the details of their theories in future classes. Okay, so now what I'm trying to say here, that the scope of sociology is broadened up by using the use of science through the society or to study the society. Okay, and empirical observation, okay, if we talk about some later French sociologists, here we need to write talk about okay, this is, if I shift, okay, hello, okay, I'm just checking my microphone right now. Hello, hello, check, check. All right, so so if this problem continues, I'll definitely shift to the recording. Okay, because I have better softwares to record the lecture, because I'm finding this problem only in YouTube. Otherwise the problem is not there. and I'll record my lecture, and that will become more efficient. Anyways, after the 5 classes, it will go in the recording lecture session only. Only the doubt clearing sessions will conduct in the live mode. Okay, so right now what we are discussing about French sociology. Okay, from how the scope of sociology can vary from place to place. Okay, and what were the developments in the form of scope for this subject in France at the time period. We have talked about the founding fathers. Okay, about Saint Simon, Comte, and Durkheim. We can talk about these three thinkers and their various dimensions of study. Okay, then we talked about empiricism. Then they also talks about society as supreme. Now this is very, very important to understand. Okay, they also talks about society. I have already showed you the points. Society as supreme. So this founding fathers, they actually thought, because you can now get the connection. If you're not giving importance to our human mind, okay, so are you giving importance to what a particular human being thinks for a particular social event? Definitely not. Okay, what this thinkers or scholars will say, that the society is supreme. Okay, society guides the individuals. Only then you can build up grand social theories or laws which will be applicable for all. If you give prime importance to individuals, definitely you cannot build up a grand theory, because every individual can think differently. All right, and in fact what every individual is thinking, even that is not empirically observable. So we cannot use scientific laws there or methodologies there in order to bring out sociological grand theories. So the founding fathers of sociology, they never give importance to the individual or to the individual's thought process. They give prime importance to society. Okay, and that is why they will say that society is supreme. Society is far ahead and far above than a mere individual. Okay, whatever the society will say, the individual will just follow it. Okay, is it not audible even now? It should be audible. It should be audible because everything is working fine as of now. Is it audible? Please tell me yes in the comment section if it is audible. Can someone please comment in the comment box if it is audible to you? All right. Gargi Bora has written it's not audible to her. Can you just recheck and let me know? Okay. Can a few more people comment in the comment section, please? If it is audible, okay. All right. Okay, Rupak. Okay, so let me continue. So we were talking about like how this thinkers were considering society as supreme. Okay, and then they also talked about structuralism and functionalism. Okay, now that is also the scope of this subject. Okay, so they are always all right. Thank you, everyone. So they are trying to focus upon the structure of the society. Okay, they are giving you a macro view. Okay, they are giving you a view of the society in the form of a structure. All right, and that we can say it can be, we can talk about a macro view. Okay, because we are talking about the overall society, we're not talking from an individual's perspective or a social agent's perspective. Who is a social agent? An individual. All right, so here the scope of sociology when we are discussing is showing us that the sociology can be also develop some structural uh, theories. Okay, and at the same time thinkers like Emile Durkheim will always talk from a functional perspective. Okay, because there are various thinkers who talks from different dimensions and perspectives. These things will become very clear when we'll go one by one with the thinkers. Okay, today's class is just a overview of to discuss the scope of the subject. Now, when Emile Durkheim will talk about religion, he will say that religion is playing a major functional role in the society because it is providing you solidarity. Okay, if he talks about division of labor, then Emile Durkheim will talk from a functional perspective, that division of labor is functional in the society. It is improving the efficiency and the effectiveness of the organization. But at the same time, if other thinkers, like for example, if we take Karl Marx, he will not speak from a functional perspective. He will talk from a conflict perspective. Okay, for example, if Karl Marx talks about religion, he will talk from a conflict perspective. Okay, he talks about religion like religion is the opium of the masses. Okay, why he says religion is the opium of the masses? Because when in a capitalistic society, when the have-nots are being exploited by the haves. Okay, who are the haves? The owners of the resources. Okay, who owns the resources, and who are the have-nots? Who are the workers? Who are the laborers? Okay, when in a society the workers are exploited by the owners, now they know that they are being exploited, but when they go and go to a religious place, they forget their exploitation. Okay, they go to a religious place and they find the solidarity, and then they will say they will meet people from the same class. They will discuss their frustrations. They will feel that everyone is going through a pain, and then they will forget, and the next morning they will again go back to that organization where they know that they will get exploited. But once they visit the religious place, and that is why they're visiting the religious places, to feel, to for their frustrations to what, for their frustrations to go out. Okay, if not religious, for example, Karl Marx will also talk about today's time period of, for example, recreational activities. Earlier, the recreational activities was coming from religion, temple, or church, for example. Now, for example, in the corporate world or anywhere, okay, from Monday to Friday, if you have to work, and in the weekends there is a concept of weekend like hangouts. Okay, where do you go? You go to the movie halls, you go to a pub, for example, or you go to a certain place where you have to pay more. Okay, and whom are you paying? You are again paying the ones who are owning the resources. Okay, so whatever you are earning under a capitalistic system, again you are paying back those earning to the capitalistic system itself. So the entire capitalistic system is built out of this exploitative nature. This is what Karl Marx talks about, and this is all. And now, as the movie hall is also playing as an exploitative manner, okay, even the pubs, if you're going there to release out your frustration, then also if you are paying your money, okay, in the form of recreational activities or in the form of like leisure activities, then also you are paying back to the capitalistic and you are getting exploited more. Similarly, if you earlier, in the earlier case, when you go to a religious place, you get relieved, okay, out of your frustrations. It is like an escape route. Okay, and that is where Karl Marx says that because of this religious activities or the other recreational activities, people are not able to realize the actual class consciousness. All right, that means they though they feel that they're being exploited, but again they forget. Okay, so that is why he brings it and says that religion cannot be a functional, cannot be seen from a functional perspective, as Emile Durkheim will say that religion can be seen from a functional perspective. All right, now these are the various changes, and this is a scope. Okay, you see that, as I said, that in sociology nothing is the truth. If I say religion is functional, for someone else religion may not be functional, and this is what you have to show both the faces of a particular thing or a topic. Okay, so when we are talking about, for example, we are talking about uh, the French sociology, so they talked about this particular things initially. We'll understand these things in great details in other classes also. Okay, now moving ahead, for example, if we talk about the later French sociologist, okay, we can talk about Pierre Bourdieu. Okay, and he was talking about a different aspect like cultural capital and, okay, cultural capital and social capital. Now what did he mean with these examples? For example, okay, cultural capital and social capital. Here he tried to say that in fact this cultural capital concept, okay, this cultural capital concept also is a matter of fact for the outcomes in the in the events of the society. All right, for example, if I tell you, now, what is this cultural concept, or what is this culture of excellence? For example, in a family, okay, for example, if you're studying for UPSC, now a family whose parents have already cracked UPSC, okay, now they are having a different culture within the family. Now, for their son and daughters, it will be more easy to crack UPSC, okay, as compared to a person who comes from a rickshawala family, for example, or from a family where there is no history of clearing UPSC or APSC. Okay, or similarly, in the you can talk about the dynastic, the dynastic politics from a family who has already a generation of political leaders. For their next generation, it becomes more easy to become a political leader as compared to a family where there is no political leadership history in the family. So it becomes really difficult for the first generation, for the first generation politicians to come out, and it is a very, very challenging task out there. So this is what this thinker called as Bourdieu is talking about, the cultural capital and the social capital in a society. Okay, it talks about that. In fact, we need to even study the various forms of the background of the societies in order to see an output. Okay, so for example, if we talk about the development in the industrial revolution, okay, why could the European society develop, or only a part Western European society could develop in industrially, and why not the other societies develop industrially? So there has to be a culture. Okay, there has to be a culture which is acting as a form of a capital, which will give them the output. Okay, so this is also a scope. This is also a scope of like the subject which we can study from this version also. Okay, now apart from that, if we move ahead and talk about other scholars. Okay, like if we move ahead and talk about other scholars, like now this is what the scope of sociology in a particular place, that is French. What are we studying? We are studying the scope of the subject place, which varies from place to place. Next, we can talk about the scope of the subject, which varies from time to time. All right. Now, after France, we can talk about German. Okay, German thinkers. Now, this is also very important because the scope of sociology will the scope of sociology will change, or the nature of sociology will change from. Just a second. Okay, so the scope of sociology will change when we change the place from France to German. Okay, so if we go to Germany, so there we can talk about the thinkers like Hegel. Okay, now Hegel will talk, now we can talk about Hegel. Okay, and then we can talk about, for example, Feuerbach. Okay, then we can talk about Marx. They are all German thinkers. Okay, then we can talk about Max Weber. Then we can talk about Simmel. Now, these are very, very important thinkers of this time period. Okay, we can talk about German thinkers. We can talk about Hegel, Feuerbach, Marx, Max Weber, and Simmel, George Simmel. Now, these are five important thinkers from the German thinkers. And then you will see that what we were discussing with the French sociologists, now the scope will change with the German thinkers. Okay. Now, what Hegel will be talking about initially, all right, what Hegel will be talking about initially is about a dialectics. Okay, he's talking about dialectics and idealism. Now, why we are studying Hegel? Because Hegel and Feuerbach will influence Karl Marx. Okay, as Saint Simon had influenced Auguste Comte had influenced Emile Durkheim. Emile Durkheim had influenced thinkers like Talcott Parsons later on. Okay, similarly, Hegel and Feuerbach both will influence Karl Marx in great manner. Okay, how they will influence, we'll understand now. Now, let us first understand what we understand by dialectics and idealism. Okay, now let's move back to our initial discussion. What is dialectics? Okay, dialectics simply means if there is a thesis, there has to be an antithesis. Okay, if there is X, there has to be Y, which will counter X. For example, the growth of sociology as a distinct discipline itself has come forward from a dialectics. What is this? What is the dialectics? For example, if you consider in dialectics, there has to be two parts. One is thesis, the other is antithesis. Now, in the dialectics part, okay, in the thesis part, we can consider what? We can consider the Enlightenment school of thought. Okay. Now, the anti-enlightenment will be the conservative school of thought, which can be the antithesis. Now, this is the dialectics. Are you getting it? Now, there is dialectics in all types of society, in the evolution of a society. Okay. For example, but again, this is not permanent. This is not permanent. Okay, why it is not permanent? Because when there is a thesis and there is an antithesis, this both will give rise to a synthesis. Okay, this both will give rise to a synthesis. For example, when we will study or when we can pick up any example, okay, when we can pick up any example, for example, let me tell you one example, a funny example, just to make you explain. Okay, initially in our society, let us take an example of marriage. Okay, when there is a marriage happening between male and female. Okay, now suppose that is an idea. Okay, that the marriage should take place between male and female. Okay, now there is an idea in the society that this marriage should happen within the same caste. Okay, within the same caste. I hope you are able to understand what I am trying to tell you. Okay, so this is what a thesis, because this is the accepted value system of our society. Okay, that marriage should take place within the same caste. Okay, now this is the accepted value of our society, and this can be considered as a thesis in our society. But what happens as time flows, there will be an antithesis to this thesis or to this accepted value system. And what can be the antithesis? It is that, for example, if I tell you that the antithesis is intercaste marriage. Okay, the society is also evolving with a lot of intercaste marriage happening in the society. Now, because of this thesis and antithesis, now they will what, like, interrelate. Okay, they will interlink, and there will be a conflict between them. Okay, and what will be the conflict? It will come out in the form of murder cases. It will come out in the form of honor killing cases. Okay, now when this is fighting for a long time, then a synthesis will come out from this. And what will be the synthesis? We can talk about Special Marriage Act of 1955, or Special Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, which legalizes intercaste marriage. Okay, so now this is the synthesis. Okay, from the thesis and the antithesis, a new act comes out. Okay, a result comes out which is a balanced one, and it talks about your Special Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, which legalizes the intercaste marriage. Now, what will happen for the society over a time period is that this synthesis will become the thesis again. Why? Because this will be the accepted norm in the society with time. Okay, that people will now be more comfortable with intercaste marriage. All right. So as with time, when this will develop in the form of thesis, this intercaste marriage will become a common thing for the society. Okay, so now this intercaste marriage is acting as a thesis, but then society always, as per Hegel, what I am saying is about all what Hegel talks about. Okay, now when Hegel will say that, okay, this has become the thesis, so definitely there has to be now some antithesis coming out. Okay, and now what can be the antithesis to this existing thesis, that is our Special Hindu Marriage Act of 1955? It can be the LGBT rights. Okay, or it can be the demand of marriage between the same sex. Okay, that man marrying a man, a woman marrying a woman. All right, so this can be what? This can be now the antithesis to the existing thesis of intercaste marriage as considered as a normal value system. So you see that society is already evolving. Society is not static. Okay, so at one time, which was a synthesis, it has become a thesis, and now there is another antithesis getting developed to this thesis. So over the time period, what will happen? There will be one more law coming out, and which will legalize, because this is the natural process of evolution of a society. Okay, and this is very much used. This dialectics is very much useful in studying the social changes, and that is why Hegel brought about this idea of what? Brought about this idea of this dialectics. Okay, that society is always like in conflict with two different ideas or with two different, and Hegel always talks about ideas, and that is why, as I had showed it to you, like Hegel talks about dialectics and idealism. Okay, so what is idealism as per Hegel? We'll study Hegel in details when we'll start Karl Marx. Okay, but as of now, Hegel will always give more primary importance to ideas, okay, rather than to materialistic aspects. Okay, but what Feuerbach will talk about? Feuerbach will give prime importance to what? To materialism. Okay, Feuerbach will talk about materialism and not abstract ideas, and not abstract ideas. All right. So what is this difference now? What is this difference between materialism and idealism? Okay. Now, if I tell you now, it's like the same question of like whether the chicken came first, or like whether or whether the egg came first. Okay. So it's like the same thing, like whether an idea will come first or whether the materialistic thing is there from before. Okay. So it's like same thing. If I ask you, okay, for example, the idea of preparing for civil services, okay, whether it came first or you saw the materialistic presence first, you saw the coaching institutes, you saw the syllabus, you saw the APSC building, you saw people clearing APSC, okay, and then your idea came. Okay, so it's the same thing, right? So for example, for someone the idea may come first, that I will prepare for civil service, and then you will see about the materialistic aspects which are there present. Okay, the books, for example, the books that you need to study, the mobile phone that you need to study, these are all materialistic aspects. But for someone it might be the other way around. The materialistic things first came first, that you got the book of APSC first, you saw it, and then the idea came. Or you met a person, an ACS officer, for example, or an IS officer, you saw him, you saw the work, the materialistic presence you saw, and then the idea came to your mind that you also want to prepare. Okay, so this can happen from both the rounds. So Hegel gave more importance to ideas, okay, and that is why the principle of idealism we associate with Hegel. And he talks about that these ideas are always evolving in the form of a dialectics. Okay, and this is what the theory of Hegel now, and this is what he uses in studying the social changes, and this is what is being used in sociology. So the scope of sociology is, now you can see that now it is different from what we used to see with the French sociologists, right? So Feuerbach, on the other hand, will talk about materialism. He gives more importance to materialistic aspects. He will say that materialistic aspects come first, and then ideas will come. Okay. Now, why we are studying Hegel and Feuerbach? Because Karl Marx borrowed. Okay, Karl Marx borrowed these principles from Hegel and Feuerbach. And when we'll study Karl Marx, like his first topic in the syllabus, okay, is dialectical materialism. Okay, because he has borrowed dialectics from Hegel and he has borrowed materialism from Feuerbach. Okay, and Karl Marx uses dialectical materialism and studies the social change and tries to study the exploitative nature of capitalism and tries to bring out a revolution out of it in order to bring the solution and bring back the social order. So I hope you have understood that how you can see that this, when you change the place, okay, from France, when you went to Germany, you saw the scope of the subject changed. Okay, they're studying from a different dimension altogether, and they're studying from a different perspective altogether. All right, and they're studying, and when Karl Marx will study this, he will give more importance to mode of production. Okay, and you know that mode of production cannot be an idea; it has to be the material aspect. And he will talk about entire society from the mode of production. And since mode of production is talking about what the economy, and Karl Marx is also known as what, an economist, economic determinist. All right. So in fact, determinist. Okay, the spelling is wrong. Okay, so Karl Marx is also talked to be like an economic determinist. In fact, in exam also you can get a question where you have to justify that how Karl Marx can be justified as an economic determinist. All right. So this is also there in Karl Marx. So you are seeing. So my only objective in today's class is to show you the scope of the subject, that is sociology. Okay. And in fact, in the next class, we'll also compare the sociology with other subjects like philosophy, history, economics, okay, and common sense. That is also part of your syllabus. And then we'll see that how the scope changes when we compare sociology with other subjects. All right. Now there are like various okay, question. Now in today's class, okay, there is also one question that I'll give you. Okay, the today's question, if I forgot to give you the question in the beginning of the class, so let me just because why I want to give you the question in the beginning is because so that you keep on thinking on that question in the entire class of discussion. Okay, so today's question will be your discuss how the scope of scope of sociology has expanded since its inception, that is start, till date. Okay, very simple question, and all these questions have been picked up from the past year question papers only, and this is how the questions are coming. Okay, so that is what you need not worry. We will be discussing everything. Okay, almost all the questions, and in APSC 100% questions will be common from our class only. UPSC 75% questions will be common from our class notes and discussion. 25% will be application part. In fact, it can be indirectly related to our class, but there you have to apply your mind definitely, because UPSC is ultimately of that view. Okay, so I hope you have understood this question. Okay, so please try to keep this in your mind. Okay, discuss how the scope of sociology has expanded since its inception, and that is what we are discussing. See, its inception was what? This is, if we talk about French sociology, this is the start of sociology, or the inception. Okay, why? Because we see Auguste Comte here. Okay, because Auguste Comte is the founder of sociology. He coined the term sociology for the first time in 1838, if I'm not wrong. You can just verify that year, but if I'm not wrong, it is 1838. Okay, and that is the start of sociology, and that is from where you need to start, because the question demands you to start from its inception. Okay, and then we have proceeded from France to now we are in German. Okay, and in Germany also very beautifully. I hope you have understood the things very well. Okay, if you're with me, please write a yes in the comment section so that I can see, okay, that you are with me. So you can, we are talking about the German thinkers. Okay, and here we have talked about Karl Marx, Feuerbach, and Hegel. Okay, then we can even talk about Max Weber. Now, the very important part that we need to discuss about Max Weber is that altogether he brings a different perspective of studying sociology. Okay, and we in fact say that Max Weber can be considered to be the like founder of modern sociology. All right, for example, the Max Weber, okay, he will bring out a interpretivism. Interpretive. Okay, that is, you can interpret things. Okay, now interpret things, if I tell you, like, if you need to interpret a particular thing, everyone can interpret it from their own perspective. Okay, because everyone has their own meaning and motives. Now this is where Max Weber will divert the scope of sociology from the founding fathers. Okay, very beautifully, this will be a very beautiful class when we'll talk about Max Weber. So initially in the founding fathers, they were talking about what? That society is supreme, but Max Weber will try to rotate it. Okay, it will make it ulta. Okay, how? It will say that individuals' meanings and motives are also determining the activities of the society. Okay, because human minds have their own thought process. All right, human minds can think from their own perspective. It has its own meaning and motive behind doing something. Okay, for example, if I give you the example again, like, why are you, if I ask you why are you preparing for APSC, okay, and if you're Imail Durkheim will say that society gives very good status to ACS officers, IS officers, and that is why everyone is attracted towards this job. Okay, it has better facilities, it has better like remunerations, it has better status, it is like better working job role. Okay, it is a better platform as compared to others. So definitely the society has made it, and society is attracting everyone towards it. Okay, but if Max Weber will reply to this question, he will reply it from a different perspective. Now, to become an IS officer, it can be like there are different reasons for different people. All right, someone might join this service to help out very many people out in the society. Someone might join because of the various remunerations and everything. Someone might join just to, uh, like uh, maybe because to do a lot of corruptions and earn a lot of black money. Okay, now what Max Weber is trying to say, that the meaning and motive for everyone to become an officer can be different. Now you see that both the sides seems to be right. Yes, then who is right? Okay, so that is the beauty of sociology. Okay, no one is right here. Okay, it is all up to the sociologist how they use or how they take up different forms of methodologies and different forms of perspectives to interpret the society in their own viewpoint. Okay, and that is where how they will criticize. So similarly, when I was talking about Emile Durkheim using social fact as a tool to study society, We'll study these things in details when we'll cover up Emile Durkheim. But according to Max Weber, social fact cannot be the right tool to study society. He brings up a different tool called as social action. Okay. Similarly, now we can see here that at a one point when Emile Durkheim is giving more focus and importance on like society, that is society is supreme. Okay, we understood when we talk about our French scholars, but here in under German scholars, not all. Max Weber, okay, is trying to give more importance and focus on the individual perspective. Okay, he talks that individual is like individuals' roles and its meanings and motives also needs to be given prime importance. Okay, so you see here that on one part, the subject of sociology, its scope is in the form of a macro dimension, right? What is macro? You understand what is micro and macro? Okay, macro is what overall, like a structural viewpoint, and that is why we can see here that when we discuss about the French, we also talk about structuralism and functionalism, society as supreme. Okay, this is the perspective of French sociology, all right, or the founding fathers at least. So they talks about from a macro point of view. But when we're talking from Max Weber's point of view, he's trying to highlight sociology from an individual agent's perspective or social agent's perspective. And this is the micro viewpoint. Okay. So now again, sociology will evolve with this dialectics between the debate between macro and micro. Sociology has been a subject of evolution out of many debates. Initially, it was a debate between Enlightenment scholars and conservative scholars. Now, gradually, it will become a debate between the macro scholars and the micro scholars. Okay, and then finally, as I already told you, this is the beauty of the subject. That if the thesis, if we consider the macro part to be the thesis, the micro part can be the antithesis, right? And obviously, there will be synthesis. And who will be the synthesis? Synthesis will be thinkers like Talcott Parsons and Robert Merton. Okay, they will give a very good conclusion combining both macro and micro. All right, and they will try to highlight sociology from this balance between macro and micro. That both is required. It is not like only with one scope we can study sociology entirely. All right, so this is what we can talk about. So Max Weber's interpretivism school of thought will also will discuss in great details later on. And then George Simmel talks about another perspective, and he talks about the symbolic interactionism. Okay, talks about symbolic interactionism. Now, when I'm talking about George Simmel, again, see, now symbolic interactionism is also a different scope how you can study sociology or how you can interpret things. For example, in symbolic interactionism, okay, if I give an example, all right, now how the society evolves. For example, where after marriage in Hindu society, okay, it is like a norm to take sindoor by the girls, right? By the female part, like they need to take sindoor and wear a Mangal Sutra. Okay, now what is that? That is a symbol. Okay, now through those symbols, also the society is interacting. Okay, in a very prompt manner. Like the society comes to know that okay, this woman is married because they see as the sindoor on their forehead and they see a Mangal Sutra. Okay, now this is also a interaction happening within the society. Okay, and through this also you can study and find out a lot of things about the society. Okay, now in fact our language, okay, our gestures, our signs, in fact these are also symbols through which the society behaves. Okay, the agents of the society behaves, and this is where, so this is altogether a different perspective, a different scope you find, okay, under George Simmel under the German school of scholars. Okay, and this is what again we see. Now symbolic interactionism will again study in details in a later class, not today obviously, but this is just a gist of what the scope of sociology. And also the question that I've given you, discuss how the scope of sociology has expanded since its inception till date. In this answer, you don't need to elaborate all the theories. Okay, you just need to give the gist as we are discussing. Okay, after that we can go to we'll change the place now again. Okay, we'll change the place and then we will go to the British scholars. Okay, we'll go to the British scholars. So we've discussed French, we've discussed German. Now let us discuss the British thinkers. Okay, so again the scope will vary. Okay, and we are, see, I've already told you that what are we studying in today's class? We are studying the second topic of the first chapter of paper 1 of Sociology Optional. Okay, there we have a topic called as scope of sociology. The first topic was sociology and its emergence and the various backgrounds, okay, which led to the emergence of sociology. I hope you have understood the topic. You have also read, I have also shared the model answer. I'll also give you various other questions on the topic later on. Okay. Now, in today's class, we are discussing the second topic, that is the scope of the subject, that is sociology. Then also we'll discuss one question, that is discuss how the scope of sociology has expanded, and that is where we are seeing that how the scope is getting varied up. Okay, right from like the French to German to British, then we'll go to Italy, and then we'll move to American school of thought. Okay, so there's at least this minimum school of thoughts we need to cover up. Okay, because it is very very important, like to know the different various forms of the scope of sociology after we go through this like various places. Okay, now let us come to the British thinkers. Okay, and here we will talk about important thinkers like Herbert. I think you have heard about him. It's Herbert Spencer. Okay, then we can talk about Thomas Baltimore, okay, because he's also an important thinker in the, like, but he's not. But in the syllabus, again, see, there are so many thinkers, but the syllabus asks you to read only six thinkers. Okay, so we'll definitely, and the six thinkers are like Karl Marx, Max Weber, Emile Durkheim, Talcott Parsons, then Robert Merton and G.H. Mead. Okay, but anyways, we have to know other thinkers also, because we have to quote them in our answers. देखो इतना effort तो डालना पड़ेगा. Do not get scared away by looking at the thinkers. Okay, there are less than 100 thinkers. Okay, लेकिन 4 महीने में हम लोग 100 thinkers आराम से cover कर सकते हैं. और अगर आपने ये 100 thinkers पढ़ लिया, you can so beautifully quote them in any question that is being asked, relevantly obviously on whatever topic it is being asked. If you can do this, that is a single most like minimum job that is demanded from this subject. And if you can do this, you can get very good marks. And the way of answer writing you can develop, okay, you have to develop definitely. So you'll definitely do well in the sociology optional, where you can expect 300 plus. Okay, if you get 300 plus, and if you do good in GS, definitely you can like expect a good rank or a top rank at least. Okay, so these are some of the like thinkers. We can even talk about like Anthony Giddens here. Okay, Anthony Giddens and Michael Mann. Okay, but again, not all are not same in your answer. I'm not expecting that you'll mention all the thinkers, but at least you mentioned 2-3 thinkers in all the various pillars. All right, then for example, now what Herbert Spencer will talk about. Okay, the scope of sociology will again change with Herbert Spencer. Okay, now he brings up an idea of evolution. Okay, Herbert Spencer is known why, because he talks about the idea of evolution. Okay, which can be applied to sociology. Okay, so what he's talking about is talking about like social Darwinism. Okay, because we know that Darwin also talked about the evolution, okay, survival of the fittest and everything. But social Darwinism is being developed by Herbert Spencer, and his analogy or his analysis is also known as your organismic, okay, organismic analogy of society. Now, what do we mean by this? Okay, what do we mean by this? All right, what do we mean by organismic analogy of society? Again, you see the scope of sociology is again varying. When we are moving to Britain, okay, now we have never heard French sociology or German sociology talking about idea of evolution and making it applied to sociology. Okay, now what? No, but again, he's also talking about the same thing about the society. Okay, what he's trying to talk about the organismic analogy is that he relates Herbert Spencer relates society with a human body. Okay, with a human body as a human. Now if I give you my hand, okay, will it work? If I give you my hand only, for example, if someone cuts my hand and takes it away, will the hand work? Will it do its function of writing, or will it do the function of anything that is being done by the hand? It cannot, right? If someone just takes away one part or one organ of your body, okay, that organ or that part of the body cannot function in an isolated manner. So how does the body functions? When everything is combined together, when it is interrelated to each other, okay, then only the entire functioning of the human body can take place. Similarly, and that is why this analogy is being used, okay, in society by Herbert Spencer, and he talks about that in fact the society also is same like the human body. Okay, there are also different parts in the society. For example, the religion is one part, is one organ of the society, politics is the another, education is the another, family is an another organ, okay, and there's so many other institutions in the society, economy is in one more, okay. Now only economy can it run without like the population or the demography, which is an institution of the society? It cannot. If there is no politics, economy will fail. If there is no economics, politics will fail, okay. If there is no politics, education will fail, and if there is no education, politics will also fail. So ultimately, and if there is no family and marriage as an institution, then democracy, then the society itself will fail, because the society also needs to reproduce, right? And that is why the family and the marriage is also a very, very important aspect of, or a part of the society. So what Herbert Spencer is trying to, it's very easy to understand, okay, that it is same like a human body. Like as the human body functions in totality, it cannot function in an isolated manner. Similarly, a society can only function when it is behaving in totality, okay, when there is interrelation between different parts of the society. All right, so this is what is known as organismic analogy of Herbert Spencer, okay. And he talks about the survival of the fittest through social Darwinism. Okay, so that is what is Herbert Spencer. Okay, and Thomas Bottomore, again, he's mainly talking about Marxism. Okay, he develops the theory of Marx and its application in the developing world. Okay, so he's not bringing anything new, but he's developing Marxism and its application in the developing world. We'll discuss about him later on, not now. Okay, then if we talk about Michael Mann, he is trying to develop a grand theory of power. Okay, grand theory. You can just mention in your answers; it will enrich your content, nothing else. Okay, and Anthony Giddens will talk about the theory of structuration. Okay, theory of structuration. Okay, and we'll talk about social systems, which later on will be also talked by Calcutt Parsons. We'll discuss later on. Okay, so these are like again the scope getting like varied upon by when we're talking about British thinkers. Okay, so this is what again you need to see. Okay, now if we move again or change the place from British, then in maybe go to Italy. Okay, so Italian thinkers, we'll just see a few thinkers here, because these are we'll find these thinkers in our chapter number 5, social stratification. Okay, and here there are thinkers like Pareto, okay, then Mosca, okay, and Gramsci. Now we talk about 3 thinkers in Italian thinkers. Okay, one is Pareto. Now they talk about very simple things like about the theories on elites. Okay, theories on elites. Pareto and Mosca, they are very famous for this theory of elite. So they see the society from an elitistic perspective. You're getting it? They do not see the society from a middle class perspective or a lower class perspective. They see the society from the upper class perspective only. Okay, and they justify that why the elites should rule. Okay, and how they should rule. Okay, and we'll not discuss that theory now, because we have to discuss that theory in chapter number 5. Okay, so Pareto and Mosca, they are basically talking about the theories of elites. So you see the scope of sociology again getting broadened up. Okay, or it has expanded, okay, because we are bringing again new concept and new ideology here. All right, so with this again, if we talk about Gramsci, okay, he was also a Marxist, and he was basically talking the society from hegemony perspective. Okay, you understand what is hegemony. So hegemony means what? Domination. Okay, so like Gramsci will talk about hegemony and Marxist perspective. From a Marxist perspective, he'll talk about how the ownership class will dominate. Okay, or in fact in a patriarchal society. Now if there is a question on patriarchal, we can apply Gramsci there. Okay, so that is a beauty, like that is where you will have to walk upon. Okay, so if there is a question on women empowerment, or for example on gender violence, okay, there also we can bring in thinkers like, even we can write about Karl Marx, because he portrays, he highlights the conflict perspective, and these are all the issues of conflict perspective, right? So this is how we develop the sociological content in our notes and also in our answers. Okay, so that is why the thinkers, you have to be very, very clear with the thinkers first of all, and then we can go into the application part of the syllabus. All right, so the application part, we have like religion is religion is there in your syllabus, work and economy is there in your syllabus. Okay, then you have family in your syllabus, you have politics and power in your syllabus, you have social stratification in. These are all the application parts. Okay, so first of all we have to understand the base. Okay, what the classical thinkers have to talk about. Okay, and what are the like the developments in this line through various like thinkers in various places, and through this we also understand the scope of sociology, right? So the last one that is left out is about the American school of thought, okay, or the American thinkers, because this is how we have discussed. Also, one part will be left out, okay, that is not there in paper one syllabus. It is about the Indian thinkers. In fact, you can even write about Indian thinkers in the scope of sociology, okay, but as of now, we will skip it because Indian sociology will study in great details in paper two when we'll start paper two, all right, but as of now, we'll have to skip that part. But again, it is not there in this book also which we are following, or it is not there in paper one. So but I'm asking you to add it. If this question comes, you can also write paper two in paper one. No one is stopping you to do that. Okay, please do not think that if a question is asked in paper one, it can be only written about paper one. No, it is a wrong concept. You should make it more dynamic as much as you can. You can apply thinkers of paper one in paper two. You can apply thinkers of paper two in also paper one. Okay, if you can do that, and definitely I'll teach you and we'll discuss more. Okay, so if we come here, for example, if we discuss about American thinkers, we can talk about Albion Small, okay, and Robert Park, and they had discussed about this Chicago school, which was I was talking to you, okay, while we were discussing about the sociology of urbanization, okay, sociology of urbanization. So anything comes on urbanization, you should definitely mention about uh, uh, Albion Small and Robert Park, okay. So this so in this Chicago school, what they were trying to discuss was about the problems and the solutions of urbanization. Okay, so that is what they again tried to expand the scope of sociology. Okay, then like we can talk about different scholars and thinkers of America, like Jane Addams. Okay, Jane Addams. He was talking about like how to alleviate. Okay, how to alleviate poverty and hunger from the society. Okay, and also oppression. Okay, poverty, hunger, and oppression, how it can be eliminated from the society. So this was discussed by Jane Addams. Okay, then G.H. Mead, very, very important because he is again specifically there in chapter 4 of our syllabus. G.S. Mead, okay, he is also trying to develop the symbolic interactionism, which you already discussed. Okay, is also trying to develop the symbolic interactionism in the sociology. All right, so he also talks about various forms of symbols and me, and there is also very important studies. Okay, we'll discuss that when we'll study G.H. Mead. So apart from that, we can even talk about a very famous American scholar who is C.W. Mills. Okay, and his theory of sociological imagination is very, very important. Okay, sociological imagination. This is very, very important. Okay, then we can discuss about the sociological imagination. Imagination. For example, let me tell you. Uh, there is a very famous study of C.W. Mills, like sociological imagination of coffee plantation. Okay, for example, when you suppose you go to CCD, okay, you go to CCD, and what is the sociological imagination as per C.W. Mills? Okay, you go to CCD and order a cup of coffee. Okay, now you end up having that cup of coffee, and you come out of the CCD, and then it is ending there, right? But C.W. Mills didn't end it there. Okay, he goes back into like reverse thought process. Like, from where did this concept come of CCD? Okay, from where is this? Like, who are related to this? Like when someone is coming and like serving you the cup of coffee. Okay, who that person is? Okay, what are the family background of that person is? Why is he here? Who is the owner of this place? Okay, and from where this CCD, like the coffee beans has been brought. Okay, now suppose it has been brought from say suppose from South Indian places. Okay, now how then when it was brought, it had to be transported. Who were the persons involved in the transportation? Okay, now how did they bring it? Okay, there was a mode of communication being there. Okay, there again, people are earning from that mode of communication. Okay, they're running their families. Then again, who is cultivating it? Okay, whose land it is? So in a cup of coffee, there's so many like sociological imagination being involved. Okay, and this is also a different dimension of like studying sociology altogether. Okay, by linking everything backwards. Okay, and then you imagine in a sociological perspective and try to bring all the dimensions. So this is what CW Mills was trying to say. Okay, and after that, under American thinkers, we have the very two like important thinkers like Talcott Parsons, which is again a part of our syllabus. Okay, and he tried to talk about structural functionalism. Okay, and as I already told you that he and Robert Merton, he was also an American sociologist. Okay, and they will try to bring out a lot of theories. Okay, and which will try to combine micro macro debate. Okay, they will give us the synthesis. Okay, and that is why we can talk about like after the structural functionalism. Okay, Talcott Parsons also like breached. Okay, we can write as like breached, uh, breach between micro and macro sociology. Okay, this was done by Talcott Parsons. This is like again diversifying the scope of sociology. And Robert Merton again comes out with various theories like middle range theory. Okay, then functionalism, obviously, then deviance as a theory, then reference group as a theory or relative deprivation. Okay, now in the first class itself, I think I had given you the details of one example of this reference group. Okay, this reference group of or relative deprivation. Now, what Robert Merton is trying to say on this is that, like, for example, you are preparing for civil services. Okay, now for you, a group of IS officers can be a reference group, right? In fact, your group can be a reference group for someone else. Okay, but within the group, for example, suppose if there are 10%, okay, out of those 10%, I want everyone to clear it, obviously. But suppose if everyone doesn't clear, okay, in the first attempt, suppose five of you clear, five of you do not clear, okay. So then out of your reference group, five of those who will not clear the exam, they will feel relatively deprived, okay, because after all the effort and hard work which every one of you gave, okay, but some of them did not clear because of various reasons. So what those 5% will go through was is like relative deprivation. Now this is what Robert Merton will say. This is not what I am saying. Okay, so this is how they are trying to develop different forms or different like dimensions of sociology and trying to study the society through various perspectives. Okay, now this is what actually is all about today's class. Okay, now but again today's class is not complete. We have completed only one part of it. Okay, now what, because I told you in the initial part of the discussion that the scope of sociology will study from place to place, then time to time. Okay, and also the contemporary scope of sociology. So we have only covered the scope of sociology from place to place. We have covered, okay, if we just revise it once, okay, if we just revise it once, we have covered initially the French sociology, French thinkers, where we covered Saint Simon, Comte, Auguste Comte to Durkheim. Okay, we discussed about their theories. Then we talked about later French sociologists like Pierre Bourdieu. Okay, his concept of cultural capital. Now, these things you should highlight in your answers. Okay, then German thinkers, we talked in great details about Hegel, his dialectics and theory of idealism. Then we discussed about Feuerbach, materialism, and not believing in the abstract ideas. Then we discussed about Karl Marx, Max Weber, Simmel. Okay, then British thinkers, we discussed about Herbert Spencer, Anthony Giddens, and Michael Mann. Then we discussed about the theory on elites by Pareto and Moscow, Italian thinkers, and also Gramsci, a very famous and important one, who talks about hegemony and the Marxist application. Then we talked about finally about the American thinkers. Okay, a very important thinkers are coming out from the syllabus like Talcott Parsons, G.H. Mead, Robert Merton. Okay, and their theories, and also like the Chicago School, which is a very, very important one. All right, so this with this so many theories you can see here that okay, I understand that you might not be very comfortable in understanding in all the theories in the very first go. Okay, but again these thinkers only will be using it, will be applying it, okay, in various classes. okay, in the upcoming time period. So it will become very easy. Okay, it will even become like a common sense for all of you. All right. So why? Because we'll be discussed, because sociology will get repeated. Okay, these things will get repeated a lot, many number of times in various chapters and in various classes. So you need not worry about like the like if you're thinking like this will become very difficult, so many thinkers in one class. Okay, this is actually the entire syllabus. Okay, this in one class we'll discuss only about, in fact when we'll take up Karl Marx as like a as a subject, as a topic for the class, we might take 2 to 3 class to complete Karl Marx itself. Okay, because we have to go in details in chapter 4. All right. So it is very important for all of you to develop this confidence. Okay, and you will definitely develop the comfort, you will definitely develop the comfortability of the subject. Okay, once you are thorough with till chapter number 4. Okay, in the initial first four chapters will take a bit of time, but after that definitely the time period will slowly and gradually come down. Okay, so that is what we had to discuss in today's class. I hope you all liked it and enjoy it. The Please do write the answer. We'll try to discuss the model answer in the next class before starting the next class. Okay. Uh, please write the answer well. Okay. Please try to write it within 10 minutes and within 250 words. Okay. Please do not. And if you're not able to do it, then try to write it till the time you can write it within 10 minutes and 250 words. Okay. In the first attempt, you might not be able to do so, but try to write it and completed in the exam environment. Okay, so I hope you'll it will be very very easy for you now because we have already written. Okay, but again this question can be addressed in 2 parts. One is the place, second is the time, and third is the contemporary part. Okay, as since we have not completed the entire topic, okay, because we'll have to stretch it to the next class where we'll be talking about the time, the change in the scope of sociology with time, and also the scope of sociology in the contemporary time period. And after that, your answer will be complete. Okay, so I'm giving you an option actually that you can wait for another day for us to complete the chapter completely, and then you can attempt the answer. But you can also write it down. Okay, you can also write it down with the amount of information that I have given you in today's class. All right. So with that, thank you very much, everyone. Please study well, and if you have any doubt, please do ask me in the next class. Good night. See you later.